direct lighting. So we got punctual lights, photometric,
So
and area lights.
we talked about this last week. Actually, we found out what the radiometric or photometric lights are. Is they're actually measured off of a physical light source. So if you've ever seen those graphs of like antenna sensitivity or things like that, like directional antennas or microphones even,
Oh.
um, like the cardioid mics and things like that, that's the same type of idea,
Oh.
but for lights.
S- So punctual is pure point light, spherical, and
Punctual is point and spotlight.
spot are directional.
Spot. Because
It-
punctual means that it emitted from a point source.
Yeah, I think so.
At infinite distance. Well, I was just asking because photometric sounds like a spotlight to me.
No, photometric is weird.
Okay, so I didn't understand it then, but that's
It's
okay.
like
So
parametric, sort of. You
it's measured
provide a
off of
bunch
a
of
source.
like, yeah, measured from a real light source. You have brightness per angle, basically.
Hmm.
Or
I guess that would include that could make it a area light in a sense because it's
kind of.
well, yeah. If it's like if yeah,
In a
never
way.
yeah. Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of units that have different symbols that I absolutely will not remember, like illuminance versus luminance versus.
You can remember the meaning of like it's
Also,
a
they
great
played a
word,
little
but
fast and loose with
makes
these
sense.
too.
Yeah,
Actually, if you scroll
luminance
up a
for.
little
I
bit,
mean,
uh, just gonna say, if you scroll up a little bit in the voice chat channel, we
oh,
had some discussion about the photometric stuff last week. We can look at it later though. Don't want to distract.
okay, yeah, because you did distract me,
Absolutely.
among other things. I mean, that's what I'm here for. So, what I can say about this chart is that this is just like the half of this stuff, like watt, that is just energy, and then it's just how much energy per unit area, and like so we got. But these ha is that LM light luminous
Yeah,
power?
lumens per
Lumen.
meter squared, I guess. Yeah.
So CD or candela? Oh, okay. SR is like surface area or something.
Solid radian, I think.
Steradian,
Steradian, something like that. Yeah.
So it's
3D
it.
radians.
Okay. Oh,
I guess solid
so
angle.
this is like linear versus rotational. That's fun. Okay, well, a percentage. That's interesting. Okay.
So
I'm not gonna try to understand it.
the percentage, like power in versus power out with the lights, if you were gonna try and quantify that for a physical light.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think something that surprised me is just how friggin' bright the sun is. And that shouldn't surprise me because it fucking hurts to look at it, but it's really, really bright, and our eyes naturally adjust to brightness and darkness really well, so it masquerades how bright the sun really is.
And it's crazy bright, like relative to physical sources that you see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Which explains why you don't put a light bulb out in full sunlight and expect to get anything from it.
98 million miles
Or,
away, and it's still as bright as it is.
I
yeah.
think the main thing is you use different units for sunlight versus what you'd use for like a point light.
Oh.
Because the sunlight obviously emits a ridiculous amount of energy, but what we really care about is here on Earth how much is hitting like each square meter. Whereas a point light, it can actually be next to things. That's how I think of it. So anyways, use different units for expressing the power of each of them.
Yeah, that could make sense. Um, Okay. Yes, this is like, why do we use LED? Efficiency?
One reason.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I'm not gonna look into it because I thought LEDs were really efficient,
It's
and
kind
I
of
know they're really power efficient, but that's a different measure.
it's relative to some theoretical max efficiency, I think. Yeah. So they're definitely more
Neat.
efficient than incandescent, but yeah.
It's interesting that fluorescent is a similar max and is on average more efficiency. Anyways, okay, I'm getting distracted. They try to validate their equations and they have fancy equipment that I wonder how much costs.
Imagine not cheap. Those types
Oh,
of references are not cheap.
this is 400 $340.
It's a lot less than I thought.
Yeah, what's the um oh, okay, so it's the same equipment. I mean, it's still $400 just to measure some light values for computer simulation.
It's not for me, but it just I was thinking a lot of these like high end light reference things are. I mean, you're into tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. I
The
mean, it's a maybe, I don't know.
for color grading
Wow,
references,
2.7-inch screen.
they
Yeah.
they get into tens of thousands of dollars easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So luminous intensity, distance. Well, this is just the inverse square law, inverted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do they say about direct lighting? Did you guys get past this, or is this where you stopped?
I
That's
think
where we
this is where
stopped.
we stopped. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so, so they have an illuminance of the light and then the BSDF that they calculate it from to get the output of the or the lighting contribution. That's how I read that.
That makes sense. I think, doesn't it? Because it's just the transfer function times the input.
Yeah. Yeah. You basically take 100% and then figure out how much of it comes out in the direction you're looking from the direction of the camera, the direction of the light. Um, yeah. Okay, direction lights. Infinitely far away, so the rays are parallel. Specular response is incorrect. They just go outside and look at the sun with their light meter and go, ah, this is how bright it is.
The hard part is going outside.
I mean, I'm looking outside right now and it's cloudy, so technically true. It'd be hard to do that here, but
Getting some rain here, yeah.
yeah. I say that as I look out the window instead of going outside. Okay,
So I think
so they
what
got
they're,
the BS.
I was just
Sorry.
gonna look at what they were saying here. The approximation for the trying to kind of understand what they're saying here about the problem they're solving with the disk thing. It's like, so if you want a specular highlight and you just have a direction where it's coming from, you don't really have a good way to get. Well, you're what exactly are they saying there?
I think I understand. If I could plug in my tablet, there's the cable? Is that cable plugged in on the other side? We'll find out. It is. Neat. I was gonna. Do I have a. Is there a way to just draw on the screen and have it show up in Discord?
Um, Might have to do it
Sorry.
in some other app.
All, all, all I was gonna say is that I think what they're talking about here is simply that the sun is not a point light, and so if you treat it as a point, you don't get any of the diffusion of light as it gets closer, like the shadow diffusion. Um, so if you have a shadow, the direct shadow will be very sharp, whereas the indirect shadow won't be.
The
Um,
penumbra.
the penumbra, yeah. I
Hmm.
am just, I could just look do the is just
So if it's purely a directional
the
light, then
this
it's
this
like,
shenanigan.
okay. If it's
Yeah,
purely directional, that
because
would just be a constant profile shadow. It wouldn't have the different areas.
yeah, it's just the fact that a single point on the surface is going to get lighting from multiple directions and not a single point from the center of the Earth.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
maybe there's other issues that I don't know of, but it's fine for me. Um, so they just choose a point because you can do an area light, but it's more expensive. It, I'm sure there's an analytical formula for it, but it's probably a bit chonky. Actually, if it's a sphere, is it that? Maybe. Anyways, um, yeah. So they have E is the illuminance of the light source for a surface perpendicular to said surface. Oh, times the uh dot product of the light and the normal of the surface.
Hmm.
That's a dot. What is the brackets? Is that normalized? That's normalized, isn't it?
Magnitude maybe. I don't remember off the top. I have to look at the.
Magni
No, dot product clamps to a range 0 to 1. It's up at
Oh
the
yeah, they
top
have
of it, I
a
think.
formula. Yeah, I'm gonna duplicate and just. It's still loading. Yeah. So dot product. Yeah. Okay. So that's a yeah, this is just this is basically Lambertian it's part of the Lambert, formulation. Okay. Perpendicular to the sun direction. Okay. The whole perpendicular aspect is what's throwing me off.
Means, or what aspect of it is throwing you off exactly?
Okay, in the simplified equation, E t underscore upside down T is the illuminance of the light source for a surface perpendicular to said light source. when I imagine a light source that's perpendicular to the surface, I imagine zero as the illuminance. Is illuminance something different than what I'm imagining?
It means
Parallel with the
if
normal.
it directly in line with the surface normal.
I guess
Yeah.
parallel or
So
perpendicular to the surface, maybe.
you multiply E. You multiply E by the Lambertian term.
Am I off by 90 degrees here?
Yeah.
Okay, that
So
makes a
the
lot more
light,
sense.
if your surface is the ground, then E would be if the sun was at noon. If you're at the
That,
equator.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the surface normal is in line with it, but the surface itself is at 90 degrees to that normal, or that direction.
I guess you could
S-
say that the direction of the light is perpendicular with. Yeah, it's parallel. The light source, the rays are parallel with the normal, but they're perpendicular with the surface, and that's
Yeah,
why it creates a T, upside
yep.
down T shape.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, upside down T, very technical
And the
term.
bottom is the surface, and the top is the incident ray.
Yeah. We need a Unicode character for the Phong shading model.
Yeah, the entire equation.
People have gotten it tattooed. I don't see why it can't be in Unicode. Um, we have the Phong. We have the Utah teapot as a Unicode character.
Is it really?
Um, no, it's just a teapot, but it we just put we just I like to think of it as if they have. Um, so the sun is really bright. It stays really bright even in the late after. Of course, in California, um, there's it's still a pretty large amount of latitude to change if you go from southern to northern California.
Yeah, not
Probably
too
southern
specific.
California. Yeah. Um, yeah. We've been doing it. We've been doing directional point lights for decades, so it being cheap is not a surprise. Um, oof, the lack of indirect lighting. Yeah, because I think that's what kills the sun is really bright in real-time computer graphics. When you don't have indirect lighting, the sun being really, really bright means everything is perfectly like white on one side and black on the other. Because there's no bouncing of light around inside to light everything up, or you know, yeah, whatever. Um,
That's why IBL helps a lot,
yeah,
and yeah, any like cheap ambient lighting like that. Because you don't need true indirect lighting to make it look believable.
Just need some approximation, yeah.
yeah. Punctual lights, point lights, and spotlights. Cool. Yes, they are point. They don't follow the. They don't?
Wait, what? Oh, these types of lights are traditionally physically inaccurate for two reasons.
Hmm.
Oh, is that further down?
Oh, it's
No, it's
right
that's
above.
actually right before the 2 points. Uh, it's the second sentence.
So okay. Oh yeah.
So it's saying inaccurate because it doesn't follow inverse square law.
I don't like this sentence because it implies that it explains why they do it, not just what they do that make them inaccurate, physically inaccurate.
Well, I think you'd have
Yes,
to.
they're point lights, infinitely small. Yes, they don't follow the universe square law.
I think it adds some complexity because you have to know
Oh,
where your fragment is to, or whatever, to if you need the
okay.
distance term.
I I rescind my yeah, I rescind my comment about this because that I'm complaining about nothing interesting. It's just English being English.
I wonder what they mean by the second point. Or said they don't follow inverse square law. Is that like source engine kind of lights where it has like the constant term, the linear term, and then the quadratic term, or is that?
I
I feel like that's what it's in reference to.
I think so. I mean, that's what Phong, like if we look the Phong shading model, which is not the same as the Phong um uh
The BRDF.
no, I think it is the Phong BRDF. The Phong reflection model is per pixel lighting.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the interpolation. Okay, yeah.
Wait, shit. Phong shading, Phong reflection.
It's sometimes referred to as Phong shading.
Some overloaded
Oh,
terms.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this
There is
the
already.
Phong reflection model, ambient, diffuse, specular terms, and it has a KS, KD, and KA. It says no, that's what I just said above.
Yeah. So the thing I'm referring to is the attenuation term.
Yeah,
The constant, linear, and quadratic attenuation.
I think
But it might not be part of the Phong shading model.
they have like
it might
a
not be.
in 57, the listing 57 in the paper. They've got they represent the L in. I think what they're talking about is the fact that this L in term doesn't have any distance term, but then they have this other one that's I over D squared. I think that incorporates a distance.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of what they're trying to get at. 'Cause if you just specified the intensity of the point light, it doesn't inherently have any like distance scaling baked into
and
it.
yeah, yeah, you have to put that in once you know how far it is away. Okay, I think commonly found these are traditionally physically inaccurate. I think I'm just backtracking a second, but I think that does mean the use of a linear, constant linear and square terms separately, um, rather than just having a single illumination value that gets divided by the distance squared. Yeah, I think I'm repeating what you just said. Um, yeah, point light attenuation only depends on the distance. Got uh, got we integrate over the. Is this a 3D? Is this just describing the integration of a sphere?
I think it is. Yeah, because it has theta and it has phi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
that
Yeah, you
comes out to
I think that
yeah,
omega
just it.
is.
d theta, d phi.
Yeah,
I think that term.
I think that's
You got the phi equals the
okay.
integral over omega. I think omega is the hemisphere. Where they do the integral of IDL, and then they break it down further from there. I think, yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting sidetracked, but I think it's interesting being shown this integral rather than just, well, everyone knows that, the surface area is 4 pi times the radius or something like that. Because
I
I think that's
Or something like that. But
think it's good to spell
surface
it out.
area of a sphere. Yeah, 4 pi r squared. R squared. That's with a
this is
unit
limit
sphere.
light solid angle.
Yeah.
What's the intensity again?
Um,
Hmm.
Or I think I have the.
I'm gonna open up the chart for my own viewing pleasure.
It's candelas or lumens per steradian. So that's the surface area measure.
Okay, so that takes the distance squared. It takes the inverse square law out. I think it's kind of the idea. Because
It also takes out. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
it's just
So
that.
Take the
it's
shot.
not- the radius does not matter,
Yeah, radius does not matter.
which is basically the same as what JB just said.
Is you're considering the cone,
Um,
basically.
yeah.
Are we talking about spotlights now?
No, we're talking about the equation.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about
Sorry.
spheres. So the unit
Yeah.
of measurement for that integral is candelas or lumens per star radian, which is per unit angle measurement. So it doesn't matter how big the sphere is that you're integrating over.
Oh, because it's a constant with. Yeah. Okay. I mean the intensity of the light. Oh, yeah. The light. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The radius does not matter because at any given radius, it's going to be the same intensity, or
Yeah,
it's the
if you have
same
that
same
inverse,
amount of light.
yeah, if you have that inverse square law picture still, you can see that it's the same number of beams.
Yeah.
It's the same radius, no matter the distance.
Yeah. The number of rays doesn't change. The concentration of the intensity decreases with the radius, but that's not what we're measuring here.
Yeah.
So when we want to know the intensity of the light's intensity? No, that's not the right word. The luminous power. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the power is integrated over this hemisphere or sphere, as the case may be. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I think that all checks out.
Because they're trying to be physically accurate here, so
Oh, okay, I see how the power thing works. Yeah, it's
mm,
just the whole sphere. Or is it hemisphere?
I think it's a whole sphere.
Oh, because it goes up to 2 pi. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if we use tau, it'd be tau and half tau, which would be more intuitive. But whatever. Sorry. It's a complete different discussion.
Yeah, I think we spent enough time on this one equation.
Hmm. Yeah, we got a spotlight. There's two angles. Oh, an inner and outer angle. This is a different, have I seen it expressed differently than the inner and outer radius? Maybe not. I'm just thinking of Learn OpenGL and how it expresses the spotlight fall off.
So I think this is like a way you could use the dot product to scale the intensity, of the L vector relative to the direction of the spotlight. Like if you wanted to have it be like less bright at grazing angles, if your spotlight wasn't exactly pointing at your surface, you could have it kind of taper off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also just, it's a cone, so you gotta express the cone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or that theta outer would be the end of the cone. Yeah, it would be like where the light stops.
Yeah. The light stops here. Um, Not to be confused with the famous presidential quote. Um,
Or the hockey shirt that I saw when I was a kid that said the puck stops here. So I don't know.
what
Apropos of
every
nothing.
goalie wants. Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
yeah.
so we got of the outer diameter, so it's a circle or it's a sphere from 0 to the outer diameter. But then the cosine, so that's a fall off here. Minus. Oh yeah, that's what you're talking about. Wonder what the inner diameter, how they account for that then.
Yeah, it's just not in that equation at all.
Yeah.
Oh, it shows in the picture how that's not optimal because if you have so you have the same amount of power, but if you change the power
Uh.
angle, it spreads. Yeah, you have a lower luminous intensity.
So I can conceive it as it's the same light bulb, but the diffuser diffuses it more or less.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so they just flip stuff around and then redo it. Um,
Well, I think it's less realistic in the, well, you're changing a
yeah.
different parameter in the optimal version.
I think they could use some shadow mapping.
Yeah, so now you have a constant luminous intensity, but the power changes based on the angle.
And then you have one that decouples it, so it will. I'm gonna assume that the formulas they describe or use, they basically inverse the actual the per point intensity and make it proportional to the outer angle. So as you increase the outer angle, it increases the intensity of the light for you
Yeah,
automatically.
so it's just changing what parameter you adjust.
Yeah,
Sorry, someone joining?
that was Gabe.
Yeah, Gabe checking in.
Seemed he joined by accident or making sure we weren't up to no good. Uh, oh yeah, this is the attenuation. Wait, L times the spot direction minus the outside and then the difference of the two. So, oh, is this? Oh, they just have a term here which is like, oh, by the way, for dealing with the attenuation due to the outer, just do that. Maybe?
Yeah, yeah, it says on 64
Oh, yeah.
what that lambda thing is.
Yeah. And they don't have it up here. Okay. That's a spotlight attenuation function. Ugh. Um,
Division by the squared distance can lead to divides by zero when objects intersect or touch light. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. If your light is right up against something, you could have potentially infinite intensity if you're touching. That's the idea.
Yeah, no good.
second one's more interesting. Well, not more interesting. It's more okay. We just have to cut it off at some point.
Or
Um,
reach a fancy equation.
max. Um,
Yeah,
wait.
that's something they mentioned.
Okay, that's interesting. They treat lights as sphere. Hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they say that. Yeah, you would have to
Yeah.
evaluate every light if you didn't cut off the distance at some threshold. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But outside of the sun, it's, not many lights affect many things unless you have like stadium lights or something crazy, powerfully bright.
Gets down to a infinitesimal enough to be insignificant.
Yeah. Do they say is this their cutoff here with like, if it's 1%, they cut it off?
That's
Um,
something they've mentioned a couple times because they're targeting some mobile hardware and half floats. They do this kind of when they might have a divide by
yeah.
zero, they cut it off at some minimum.
Oh. Was this the radius fall off curve? 1 minus the
Yes. I'm actually making a Desmos graph of it really quick.
Oh, yeah, well this
Chart.
this would be as the light gets to be a larger and larger proportion of the radius, then it God, 4 squared, r squared, r cubed to the fourth. Yeah. I mean, this is a fraction. It's just taken to the fourth, so it takes a lot longer to get there. Um, I think, or it's a lot faster. I want to see this Desmos graph.
Okay, I'm gonna link it.
D to the fourth over R to the fourth.
Whew. Are those? Is there units associated with the graph?
Oh, there's R, which is the radius of the light,
Yeah.
which is the max radius that is, and then
Yeah. Yep.
height, intensity. You can
Ah.
drag those. You can see how it always goes to 0.
Oh.
Okay, that.
Whereas normally, I'm gonna make an updated graph.
If you could specify the maximum radius on lights, that kind of makes it easier to cull lights. If you consider it a sphere, you can test against positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
that's pretty standard practice to have some sort of computation of this is a light, this is its influence area. I wonder if they, I guess for spotlights, you have if you don't know what direction they are, you have to assume it's a sphere. But
But sorry.
if you have a spotlight, that distance is a lot further. Okay, what
The
am I
new
looking
graph
at
it
here?
just compares the green line is just if you don't have the extra attenuation factor.
It just
So
goes
you
on
can see it's
forever.
just asymptotic. It just goes on forever. It doesn't actually reach 0.
Oh, but
But
isn't
the red one nicely falls off.
oh oh is so they're basically just pushing lights that are a bit further away to have less light so they can um smoothly go to zero rather than cutting off at an arbitrary distance and having lights pop as they come into culling range or come out of culling distance. Is that
Yeah.
what the,
So when you have a let's say deferred renderer, you don't want to be evaluating every light for
you're
every
right,
pixel.
right.
Say you want it has to cut off somewhere, and so you use that extra attenuation factor, so you don't have a chunky hard cutoff.
Isn't that physically inaccurate?
Yep.
It's physically
Pretty good.
Interesting.
physically based. It's not necessarily physically accurate. Yeah. Yeah, I think
I mean,
they make a lot of approximations.
The alternative would be horrible performance or really bad looking lights.
you have a very tiny light. It really doesn't like it because
It's almost
it
linear.
just dies. Well, it's almost linear at the same proportional distance away from the thing. It's just to like this looks nice, but if I can if I increase this again, it's back to the same issue, you know, I think. As the
Yeah.
as you as the radius decreases, unless it's a very dim light, it's the same issue. So I guess this is fine, assuming that the intensity and the radius are in lockstep of each other.
If you have a super bright light that is also a really tiny radius, and it's just gonna always look wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I'm gonna put this up to 50.
But they definitely need to be correlated a bit for it to not look bad.
Yeah, I almost wonder if these values are set R is dependent on I ever, or if that's like something they have to manually tweak.
I don't know. I haven't read far enough yet.
Yeah, so um oh, so this is where they're doing the um thing here.
Yeah.
So they have distance squared, inverse radius squared, and then they factor times factor, which does the same thing effectively, I think.
Using
Yeah,
the
I'm
fourth
guessing it's
power.
just the optimized version.
Yeah, and light in radius is already over 1, so you can just multiply them together. Yeah. But light in radius comes from get square fall off attenuation, which is this thing,
It's passed in. Like it's
and
Oh, you just store the inverse radius in the light itself, as opposed to the regular radius.
be like a
You
parameter
really
of the
never
light.
need to. Yeah, so if you have
yeah.
a buffer of lights, you just
Oh,
calculate it on the calculate it on the CPU or something.
yeah, yeah. I think they mentioned. I mean, yeah, this is going to be a constant light in radius squared
Hmm.
or times 4. That could be pre-multiplied on the
Yeah,
CPU. But
just one multiply though.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate them not doing that here. Makes it much easier. So yeah, so the light position, intensity, and its inverse fall off thingy are stored in the buffer. How does it calculate R then? Does it say?
It's just
No.
a
Uh,
parameter that the artist can control.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Neat. Okay. So photometric lights.
These are the ones that are kind of based on measurements. I think it's kind of the idea. The metric section there is kind of that photometric. I think it refers to trying to measure the emission of a, or trying to model measured emission of a light.
Well, yeah. In one plane here. Which then probably is IES profile? Illumination Engineering Society.
Mm.
Illuminating Engineering Society. I'm sorry, that exists? Lead page.
I guess so.
Industry-backed nonprofit 1906? Wait, what?
It's a learned society.
That's ancient. It's learned. They ain't no idiot. Illuminating.
Oh,
Um,
link. Something about this.
you
Filament
have some?
panel.
Yeah, last week
Oh,
we were looking at some of this after.
okay.
There's a format for the photometric light. It's basically just an array of pairs of angles and then luminance.
You got some way to interpolate or something.
Oh, yeah, you got some header, you got some info, you got some what look like colors, and then,
Oh, those are angled. Oh yeah, those colors.
yeah, because there's the RGB, the triples there, and then these are angles, and
Yeah.
these are intensities.
Yeah,
here?
and the intensities are associated with the angles.
System
And if you look at a
variable.
picture of a photometric light, it's kind of obvious how they sort of map. So if you take any particular angle, you can see how
Yeah.
it could map to some value in the array.
So instead of having that,
And there's some sort of
the fall off with the
I
cone
mean,
angle.
if I want, yeah, because some of these have definite like multiple interior cones. That's fascinating.
and what Filament does for actually getting the computing it, I guess, is they have like a 1D texture that they sample based on the angle,
Oh, neat.
and then that's how they get the light intensity.
So it's still in terms of that sort of dot product, not exactly dot product, but the angle between the light vector and the direction in which that light source is pointing.
Yeah, because you can see it's basically a bunch of cones.
They wouldn't really have a way
True.
to have another term there for trying to think axial. I don't know what would you call that. It's only in terms of
so you
the
have, like,
cone angle.
Pi and theta,
Right.
basically. Yeah, that would. I feel like that would make it a lot more complicated, but
Yeah, I think this is a good approximation.
maybe not.
That actually makes a lot of sense to do it in terms of a one-dimensional texture.
Yeah, because it's radial in nature.
Oh, you can see it right there. Get photometric attenuation. Vector 2D LOD. I like how it's extension.
This shader texture lot. Free.js. Oh, it's web stuff. Or
Yeah,
it is a part of
true.
the. Well, it's both web and core. It's just. Why am I?
I'm guessing it's not in regular OpenGL ES or GLSL ES.
Yeah,
Oh god, the dark mode.
it's off.
You have to
I think
refresh
this
the page.
website's just forked.
You have to refresh the page to make it update.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna copy.
Do you
I'm
open in a
gonna.
different browser?
Well, I have to switch windows to
Oh,
see. Well, actually, you can see it better now if I am if I'm in a different window. So if I'm here, now I'm highlighting a different window.
oh.
Okay, we really just want this paragraph here.
Oh, it's just to let you select the LOD
Okay.
directly.
Oh, bitmap. Oh.
Yeah, instead of automatically doing it based on the UV gradient.
So you provide the LOD, but is it 0 to 1? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4 until you have no
It's
more?
1, 2, 3, 4. The
Oh,
in-between values are trilinear interpolation
Yeah,
between
yeah.
two LODs.
did you say trial and error?
Trilinear.
Trilinear, like
Trilinear. I was like trial and error interpolation. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, we're just guessing.
yeah, use a neural network actually. It just does random stuff until the neural network determines it looks right.
Okay. Okay, we don't need to do this too much. Um,
It's like when you're setting up mip-map texture filtering, you can specify how it handles the levels between MIPs. You can do nearest or linear interpolation between levels.
Yeah.
is it always just choosing the first level?
It
Yep,
looks like
that's
it.
what the 0 means.
Yeah.
So
Could have just used a regular.
this is basically just a fancy way to not sample a texture or sample between bitmaps.
You're only ever
Would it
sampling the
generate
first
They just
bitmaps
bit.
want intrinsic
automatically?
control over the LOD because they don't want the angle. If you use a regular texture function, you get some weird artifacts. Well, not necessarily, but if
Uh,
you're
but it would also require that the shader generate the stuff to get the LOD stuff
yeah,
automatically. Okay. Okay, because they do want to interpolate across texels. They don't want to interpolate across MIP levels.
and they don't want. Oh, normally it would use the UV that you pass in. They get the gradient of that to select the LOD.
Yeah, it could get some bright
But since
ideas about it.
if its
Yeah.
angle is not a spatial, it's not a spatially dependent value, I guess. It doesn't. It would just look completely wrong if you had LODs.
Yeah, I don't think it has meaningful data to treat as a UV comparison there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of tuned out. My mother said, "We're driving through a storm." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Drive safe." Um, use as a mask. The phrase "I wasn't me until I put on the mask," and it's one of these.
Oh, no one knew who it was until I found
No one knew
out.
it was. It's all they're doing is putting a light below their face and shining it upwards, and it's producing like one of these patterns, like like 15 here, which is hyper complex. Is
Yeah.
that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different cones?
Yeah, it really is just a bunch of spotlights stacked on top of each other.
I'm picturing
Kinda, yeah.
like one of those like the recessed like can lights. I'm
Yeah.
picturing like multiple
Yeah.
reflections out of that.
What's
Yeah.
cool is with LEDs, you can have quote unquote recessed lighting without actually having to recess the lighting very much
Oh
or
yeah,
at all.
yeah, you
Because,
just basically tape it to the wall.
It's not very thick.
yeah, like, okay, I clicked on something and it didn't show me the product. Oh, that's because it wasn't a product. It was just LED recessed
Category
lights.
product.
Yeah, I'm a genius. I know it. I try to be humble. Yeah, you can see how shallow it is. This one still is still actually recessed. It's just
It's
you don't have to
just
drill out a big hole in the ceiling to do it.
it's just whatever it needs for a heat sink there. That's cool.
Oh, there's a heat sink. Oh yeah.
Well,
Shaw
Technology.
yeah, the back of the light is kind of like a machined piece.
No housing needed. See, this is the thing they should be building in houses. Wait. A bad joke.
I saw a long video about
Yeah,
light
technology
fixtures.
connections.
Yeah. I
What
liked
was
it.
it?
Good.
Technology connections.
If you didn't know about technology connections, I'm sorry, but your weekend is now gone.
It's a really interesting channel.
This is about recessed lighting. I-
LED lights specifically.
Is it
Yeah, I linked it in the
the?
voice chat channel.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'll take a look. I've heard of this technology connections channel before, but
Yeah.
I'll check out this video.
He
So
is a
somehow-
he has a lovely wit.
Yeah, it'll make talking about like
Dishwashers.
dishwashers interesting, like literally for hours.
Yeah, the first video is like 30 minutes, and then his follow-up is like 40 minutes, and then I don't know if he did another one where he's like, I apologize for misleading you guys, but it's more complicated than I thought, apparently.
I've definitely seen some of this guy's
Honestly,
videos.
that dishwasher video was great.
It's pretty practical knowledge too.
Yeah. It's like the home ec class I never had.
Pretty
Home
much.
economics.
Yeah, I never had one of those either, but what I imagine it'd be like.
Yeah. Okay, so area lights to do. Yeah,
Nice.
can't talk much about them. I don't know if we want to go anything more about the photometric lights.
I think we have a decent intuition how those
I mean,
work at this point.
yeah, we get there's a mask, you sample it, and you attune the output based off that sample. So that's cool. Um, are they three separate terms? Oh, square fall off, spot angle. Is that yeah? Because it's still you're right. So its basis is a spotlight, and then it attenuates it based off the photometric computation. Cool. Okay.
Wait, they do spotlight angle and photometric?
Yes.
Porque no los
Apparently,
dos.
maybe if you just set these equal.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that actually is interesting because how you apply the texture determines how much you
Yeah,
like.
I would think that that would be baked into the photometric attenuation.
Yep. So maybe you don't have a great intuition of it, but I
Or
I
maybe they
don't.
just let you combine them for extra flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. They have a whole bunch of here using our light gen tool.
Because if you just apply the spotlight attenuation, it's just basically lets you close or mask off parts of it, I guess.
Like a focus term almost.
Yeah, except it doesn't change the shape of the photometric light. It's just masking off the edges if you have a spotlight attenuation on it.
Hmm.
I guess it's more flexibility.
This is closely related to something else we talked about last week. Is called a gobo. It's like if you remember the Batman symbol shining up in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, this symbol, like one of these,
Right, but gobo.
it's just radial.
Yeah, gobo
Not
is the stencil that you would put there to shine the bat symbol.
Um, light parameterization. So it's basically all the things we just talked about, but in one reference. So you do get to set the fall-off radius.
Well, look at the length and radius parameters. You can make totally tubular lights, dude.
You
they're
got me.
radical. Yeah.
Totally tubular, man.
Tubular.
What does that even mean here? Tube, like
I don't know.
Like a
Like a-
laser, maybe.
length of the area light?
I'll have to look up tubular light.
I guess.
Does it just mean like a fluorescent bulb that's really, really long?
Oh yeah.
I'm picturing something like they brought in the cone so far that it's basically just the same out. It doesn't change very much with distance.
Yeah, this is a tube bulb for area lights. That makes sense. So is it just? Oh, I just clicked the wrong window.
Length of the area light.
Tubular light.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you're right actually, because they're talking about area
Is a
light.
capsule shape? Is that what it's talking?
They kind of
Yeah,
skipped over.
length and radius.
They skipped over some of the area lights stuff, so I think they're kind of. Yeah, I think they're talking about area lights now. So it's something where it has some.
Yeah,
area.
they haven't described their area light formulations, so we have no clue.
Yeah.
I guess they are capsules, so that's the length and radius.
So you can mask or multiply? Oh, it okay, so whether the user supplied intensity is considered?
Wait, what now?
Sorry, the mask profile, if you have it off, the user intensity specified intensity up here is ignored.
Oh, right. Oop,
That was a misclick for sure. Like, oh, people are in here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
done that before. Are we good on the parameterization?
Yeah, sorry. It's
I'm
answering
good.
someone's question. Color temperature.
Oh, jeez.
Oh no. Artificial lights. If we start doing CIE, I'm gonna skip it. So we got our color temperatures, which is an interesting curve. Why are they diagonal? Is that like because that's the different colors they can be? Because I'm sorry, but a 10,000 Kelvin light I do not imagine as pink or green, but as blue.
Yeah,
And it just
not really
it stops
sure.
here. It never
Well,
gets.
it's barely. Oh, it doesn't go far into the green or pink.
I don't know what those bars mean.
I'm not really clear
Planckian
on that either.
locus. Source Wikipedia. Okay, they're
Yeah, you bet. Planky and locus. Yeah, that's huh. So it's black body radiation, I guess, is kind of what that relates to. It's like
Uh,
what's emitted based on temperature or something like that. Yeah, this is getting deeper than yeah.
wait, so can you look at that graph again for 1 sec? So why are warm lights? Okay, so orange lights are warm, right? But why are they colder?
Well,
this is
if you think
this is black body radiation.
yeah, the way that I think about it is
Um,
like for stars, like blue stars are the hottest stars.
so
Yeah, I get that. I just don't. Why is it?
Yeah, why do
so
we
so
think
think
about it the
about
other way?
the wavelength of light. Um, red light is less intense than blue light because it has a lower wavelength, and as
No,
a
the longer
surface,
wavelength.
thank you, a longer wavelength, lower wavelength
But the
is
blue lights have shorter wavelength and thus are more
intense.
energistic.
Yeah, so as a object gets hotter, the black body radiation, hey, look, it's that graph again. Um, is there an
Oh,
equation? There's an equation for this, and it's like 4 at n to the fourth.
as it trends towards red, that's getting towards
But don't
infrared.
people call orange lights warm, or do I have it backwards?
No, you're right. Yeah, that
Yes,
I think it's,
warm lights are cooler energetically.
but it's the red is trending towards infrared, which is heat. So
Well,
you could think of why they would think they're call them warm.
that's direct heat though. That's not the intensity of the light of the photon.
Right.
It's it's correct to say a hotter light is bluer, but a redder light is cooler, which is counterintuitive to how human perception of blue is as a cool color rather than a
Okay,
hot
so
color.
that is just perceptual feeling or something like that.
Are you talking about red light being warmer feeling or
Yeah,
like emotionally or physically?
yeah, emotionally. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, that's its emotional. It's
Okay, yeah,
completely
that was my
counter.
confusion.
Yeah. Human perception of red as a warm light just is, I don't know. It's
It's a
probably
lie.
even, it's probably even a Western tradition thing.
Well,
Like,
it's probably related to how fires are like
yeah,
that
that's
color.
well, yeah, because they're an outdoor like forest fire, except in the parts we can see, they're red and orange. But the parts that are the hottest are going to be white hot and not very visible because they're deep down in the blazing inferno. Um,
Or like a flame on the stove. It's like blue and then red on the outside.
Right.
no,
Wait, what?
because you're why you're don't confuse the light emitted due to not emission. What is it called? Um, I think it's because the chemicals we're burning um show blue light. Why
Oh,
is natural gas blue? So it may
Complete combustion is
okay,
going to
yeah.
produce more heat.
Ionize the gas molecules in the flame. Yeah, ionization. Yeah, it's also going to produce more heat, so it's going to be more blue, definitely. But like it's more because like the gas itself is creating light. If you burn chemicals, they produce light at specific frequencies, wavelengths. So you know how some things look green and some things look red and yellow? That's not black body radiation. That's just the absorption of light versus at different frequencies.
hmm.
What we're talking about with this stupid where did it go? With this thing, we're talking about what the color of the light would be um,
Oh,
because of how
additive, subtractive.
bright the surface is from black body radiation. Um,
Yeah, there's a bunch of different uh, heat and color have a bunch of different relations.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's
it has
not a simple thing.
no relation to temperature, how high it is.
So a color,
Yeah,
a black body radiation color has very little to do with the color natural gas burns due to complete combustion of the fuel.
right.
Because like this is saying it burns about, 2000 degrees Celsius. But if you look over here, 2000 degrees Celsius is deep in the orange.
Yeah, it's not a black body radiator. It's just gas ionizing.
Yeah, it's a fun chemistry experiment I did in, in high school actually. See, like I believe there is some of that going on. I mean, it cools down and it will not be as bright, but I don't think that's
I think it might just be incomplete combustion.
yeah. Um I mean, uh, yeah.
Because if
It is true that complete combustion implies it's going to be a hotter because it's getting more energy out of it.
you put
So,
copper into fire, you produce a green flame, so it's kind of off that spectrum.
yeah. Is this just a blog about, oh, this is a gas company? Well, I appreciate a gas company explaining
Gas
something.
enthusiast.
Yeah.
Gas propaganda.
It's- yeah. Which is a thing. Um,
Gaslighting.
that too, but
Good. Yeah.
you got gas. You got gas commercial. There are some hilarious, like, 60s, 70s, 80s, like, gas rap. This is a thing, and I'm scared to post it, but it's
Oh yeah.
Can you hear this?
Cooking with
Yeah.
gas.
Cooking with gas.
We all cook better when we're cooking with gas.
Gas
Like,
It just cracks me up.
is so hot it's not on when it's off. It's the only way to cook. That's what I was taught. Now here's a fact.
An educational rap video about natural gas cooking safety. This guy performed in? Wow.
did they give a year
Um,
publication?
no.
Would be an interesting
Cooking with gas.
piece of cultural knowledge.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say 88. 1988.
88. Yeah, you're actually exactly right. It says at the end.
Holy shit, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Last 10 seconds it says.
Oh, it does? Oh, that's... I swear I hadn't seen the ending before. I just guessed, like, I bet I felt like I was
Cultural
within,
influences.
within 5 years, plus or minus, but yeah, 1988. We can see the awful lyrics. Shrimp Creole?
Some
Okay, it's
backing
distracting.
vocals.
Yeah. I will let you guys watch that at your own leisure rather than make your ears bleed. Black body radiation is complicated. Okay.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Here's some math and numbers that I have no clue where they come from or what they mean.
Oof.
I have a decent. Let me share this really quick. I have a good in my
Okay.
engine. I have a thing for
Oh.
calculating the warm to cold colors.
It looks like a polynomial. So you
Yeah.
just-
Oh, is this just
One
a
curve.
approximate? Oh, yeah, it's just a curve. It's degree 9 curved. Oh, T2, T3. Oh, it's
that's
divided.
actually a
Okay.
degree. Wait, how many?
It's
T to the third power.
it's
of how much?
inverse because it's divided by, right?
Yeah.
What an interesting. Oh, it's this. Is it this hairy thing? Oh, this is the coordinates in UV space. Oh boy.
If you ever
Hey.
need something to calculate those colors, this works pretty well. I converted it to GLM, but
Okay.
it was initially for GLSL.
Oh, this gets you the color temperature?
Well, you give it the temperature as a double, and then you get out the color that it maps to.
Oh, okay. That's useful. Because that's like yeah, that's useful. So it will basically figure out the color on this curve there or thereabouts. For reference, the sun is about 5500, 5600 Kelvin. I think it's that.
D65 is the kind of daylight white standard. That's 6500K.
Oh, is that? Okay, I had it backwards. Yeah.
4,000 miles.
Convert to miles.
Oh,
I think those color range ones might be kind of nanometers.
I was distracted. Yeah. Well, we're looking at the wavelength of light, you know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Look at it that way.
So yeah, we got that red to white to blue. Interesting.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
it crosses through white is kind of 6500. That's kind of what the reference is.
Unnormalized. Yeah, it goes quickly into yellow and then it spends a lot of time in white before coming to cyan? Okay. Interesting. That's like just a interesting different. Yeah, I mean this is the annoying thing is if you look at the sun, this is what the color is, more or less. It's just so blindingly bright that you can't actually tell what the color is. It just bleeds out your eyeballs. Please don't look at the sun.
How else am I gonna test my engine?
Yeah, I need a point of reference.
Sun, what are you doing? I'm testing my engine.
Gotta make sure it's physically correct.
Making the
Yeah.
ultimate sacrifice.
Okay,
Physically blind you.
Isn't there some religious practice that involves staring at the sun?
I don't know. That sounds kind of whack.
Sun gazing, the practice of looking directly at the sun. Wow.
so this is... Sorry. This is what I was thinking about. What are you doing? My eyes! Sun gazing. Yeah.
Spiritual or
Like looking
religious
at... Okay,
practice.
during dawn or dusk is when it's like the most safe to look at the sun because it's the least bright.
Just going
And,
through a lot
well,
of
actually, if
atmosphere.
you look down at night, you can be looking at the sun just
Mhm.
fine.
Genius.
Safe.
There's a thing where if you want to change your sleep schedule, you wake up early and you look not at the sun but around it, and then do that for 10 minutes. So be able to.
Talking about a treatment for sad. When you feel sad,
Bad.
Maybe like a circadian
what,
rhythm
what,
thing.
what I really mean is the seasonal affective disorder, the best name for
No.
an ailment.
Yeah, sad.
Big sad.
It basically means you get less light in the winter, so you're sad because light is needed for like mental health kind of thing. I definitely feel it. I have a light. I don't stare into the light, but I do have a light bulb I just put on my face in the winter. And they make
Oh, like
lamps
a-
for this.
Like a grow light, sort of.
A what?
Like for plants.
A UV light, you know.
Not a UV light. The usual ones they have for this, which is something like this. You're supposed to like use it in the morning, and you basically sit next to it. You don't look in it. But this is the one my mom had at one point, and I'm like, that's not bright enough. That's not like the sun.
Just to blind you.
Yeah, it should,
Yeah.
it should be blowing your retinas out.
I was reading a blog post of a person. Actually, I'm just gonna do truck blood lamp blog. Maybe I'll find it. Truck driver health. Basically, it was just this guy's blog, and they found that blood lights, like, these things were the best because you could get one of these long bars here. You could be sucking down 3-4 kilowatts of power,
Yeah,
but
those
you'd get a
things are
lot of
serious.
light. And
That's
and
a
they
lot.
they just mounted it in the ceiling. Um,
It's like one of those. It's like a mini stadium light.
It's a
mini skating light.
stadium. Like
Stadium. Yes, absolutely.
It's like the proverbial photon cannon.
Yeah, no, it's this guy's blog. I found it. So he's like sad. So I got a light bar, and
It's gonna depend on.
can you
the,
tell that it's just like blasting the room?
Yeah, those are bright as hell.
And I'm like, you don't have to be. Yeah, you don't have to be like sitting right next to it. You can just be laying in your friggin' bed, or in this guy, a beanie bed. I have questions. I don't want answers.
I would probably
Um,
put some kind of diffuser there, maybe like a white sheet in between you and them, so it wasn't kind of blasting your eyes out so bad.
Well, you just don't look at it is basically the best advice I can give you.
Yeah.
Just don't look at the light. Look near it, but don't look at it. And then I end up looking at it anyway. But if you put a diffuser, you're removing the light and
Yeah.
making it harder for it to work. So,
It would attenuate some,
okay.
yeah.
yeah. Maybe that's what you want. I don't know. But You know the lights that they have at dentist offices?
Hmm.
It's basically you want that just pointed at your face where your eyes are looking away rather than upwards and at it. My dentist always gives me like sunglasses. It's kind of funny. Okay, back on topic. Do we want to keep going? I think we should probably stop here.
We can
It's
probably
been
cut
an
it.
hour and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has. Yeah.
We're at the image-based lights. Okay, so we'll quickly go through this. They pre-expose it. Um, okay. Camera exposure before writing. Okay.
Okay, so I think the exposure things are going to have some sort of brightness scaling to have things kind of in reasonable ranges.
Yeah. So because they want to use half precision floats, they have to pre-expose it. So they multiply it by the exposure? Interesting. Okay. Well. Oh. So they pre-expose all the things. Materials, IBLs, directional, punctual lights. Neat. Okay, we'll do 5.3 next week and try to get through the lighting stuff.
Cool.
Maybe. Maybe not. That's a lot of stuff to get through.